Morning and welcome to another episode of CREDE Play Offense. Today I'm truly honored to have Jay Green from Waltz Construction join us. Jay and Waltz have been a partner of ours for years and a true quality GC in the Western United States. And Jay, thanks for joining us today. I kind of figured today we'll go through a little bit of your background, which is not your typical hammer swinger, to getting up to where you've been, and also to see if we could add a little transparency to for our listeners of what you see and what I see going on in the construction world in 2024 and 2025. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great seeing you. Appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you, and always enjoy our conversation. So looking forward to this one.
Well, maybe just as a starting point, as a selfish plug, I'll have you give a little background on Waltz, because Waltz is a longtime member of the Valley in Arizona, and historically not just a general contractor, and your own background as well. How did you rise up to where you are at Waltz today?
Sure. Yeah. So, quick little background on Waltz. So we've been around 21 years. Our founder and principal in charge, Matt Waltz, is an Arizona native. Graduated from Arizona State University's construction management school. From there, he went on to go work for just a small general contractor called Gilbane. And at the time when he graduated and accepted the offer, Gilbane was the second largest general contractor in the world. And so Matt spent about 10 years with Gilbane, worked his way all the way up to project executive, and starting to interview for kind of C-suite positions, because there was a gap in the Gilbane family lineage, right? And so they thought so highly of Matt that they wanted him actually to be the chief operating officer of Gilbane. Matt's dream had always been to start his own company, right? And so Matt was building biotech and pharmaceutical plants around the country, and he loved it, and he gained a ton of experience. But literally every 2 or 3 years, he was having to pick up his family, and he was having to move somewhere around the country. And so Gilbane was awarded a large project at Arizona State University. And so 20 years ago, actually 21 years ago, Matt went to the Gilbane family and said, "Hey, listen, I'm back home. My lifelong dream has always been to start my own company." And so they supported him. And actually, our first client at Waltz was actually Gilbane. They actually subbed some work out to us while Matt was still staying on board for the project over at Arizona State University. And part of the reason why I tell that story is I think it's just it's a true testament to who Matt is as a person and as a professional, right? That his soon-to-be previous employer thinks so highly of him that they actually sub work. They ask him to stay on board, and then they give him work to start generating some revenue to get his company off the ground and operating, which is phenomenal. So fast forward to where we are today. We're licensed in 14 states. Our home office is located in Tempe, Arizona. We're right down the street from Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. We have 3 offices in Texas and soon to be one in northern Colorado. We have right around 65 employees. We don't self-perform any work. So what we do is we truly are just a general contractor. We come on board, construction manager, project manager. We truly believe in being client advocates. And so with that, 2 things at the forefront. We want to maintain schedule. That really drives everything. And we want to deliver a project on budget, right? And so by us not having that self-performing wing, it allows us to truly focus on what the best needs and wants of our clients are. And so, key market sectors for us, we do a lot of stuff in education. For about the last 15 years, we've been doing anywhere between 5 to 10 educational projects on an annual basis, ranging anywhere from $5 million up to $40 million. And so the K-12 market in the higher ed has been a great market sector for us for the last 15 years. For about the last 7 years, we've been in the multifamily sector. We've successfully
where you and I met.
That's exactly where it is. Yeah, we were fortunate enough to work on a project in Mesa, Arizona. It was a 185 unit garden style multifamily project. And so fortunately for us, we had a great partner like you guys that helped us deliver that project on time and on budget. And what that really did is that allowed us to catapult ourselves into truly focusing on the multifamily. So I would say probably 60% of our work is in education, 30% is in multifamily, and then that remaining 10 is kind of miscellaneous, whether it's behavioral health or hospitality or just some unique development construction projects that we get presented from some of our backgrounds, right? Clients from all walks of life come and present us and say, for example, we're working on a surf park in North Scottsdale, Arizona, which is kind of unique to Arizona. There's a couple of them that are either in design or under construction. We're helping this developer figure out the water credits, which is a huge thing out here. So we like to consider ourselves kind of a jack of all trades, but our bread and butter is construction. And then my background is probably even a little bit more unique than Waltz's background. I actually did not go to school for construction. I played baseball throughout college, graduated from Grand Canyon University, and graduated with a communications degree. And to be honest with you, Colby, the reason why I got a communications degree is because it was the only thing that transferred the most amount of credits from the two universities that I went to. And so I was trying to get out of school as quickly as humanly possible. Graduated from GCU and then was fortunate enough to join the coaching staff over at GCU for a couple of seasons. And then from there, actually a partner of mine, business partner, started a baseball store out in Chandler, Arizona. And so I was asked in my free time to come give some baseball lessons. And from there, I met some phenomenal families that convinced me to join the construction world. And so while I was giving baseball lessons, I got my first job opportunity in the construction world to go work for an industrial painting company that all we did was Intel fabs around the world. So we did the chemical resistant coating floorings, and we did all the structural steel painting and all the finish painting. And so I skinned my teeth in the construction industry thinking that Intel was the only type of construction that was out there. And so as we know, that they're probably at the upper echelon of safety and quality and expectations. So it was a great introduction. And then from there, I got introduced to Matt Waltz, our founder. He says I actually have the toughest interview in the history of Waltz Construction because I actually met him and his wife, Erica, while giving baseball lessons to their two sons, Jake and Evan. And so he says he entrusted me with his two most prized possessions. And then he saw the way that I could handle, doctors and lawyers and families and just all of the intricacies of running a baseball team and said, hey, this guy might be a decent project manager. So about 10 years ago, we were out drinking beers after practice one night. The kids had already gone home, and he said, do you know what I do? And I go, no, I don't have any idea. And, you pay me every month, right, which I'm very appreciative of. And he goes, well, I own a construction company, commercial construction company. Why don't you think about coming and joining us? And the rest is history. So over the last 10 years, I've been fortunate enough to start on board as a project manager and work my way up to my current position, which is partner within the firm and acting president. So I oversee all of our day-to-day operations in all of our offices and really do a lot of just client maintenance and relationship building and try and generate as much revenue and new opportunities as humanly possible. And fortunate enough to meet you, of course.
Now, curious, I don't think I ever asked you, but your time at Grand Canyon, did you ever know Coach Dallas?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have Dusty Dallas as part of our team. And you guys might have done stuff back there, but he would have been a little younger. He and his brothers would have been younger when they played there. But yeah, the baseball world is a small world.
It's a small, tight-knit community, no question about it.
Well, and, baseball and sports comes back. So, these podcasts kind of go all sorts of different directions, and why I don't always send a pure agenda out to everybody. But, talk to me a little bit as you look at people that you're looking for your team, for Waltz, or people that are coming into it. We always see at CREDE that team's the most important. My ultimate goal is to promote entrepreneurship, which is the idea of being entrepreneurial, but within the company. And if somebody wants to go start something new, Thomas and I, my partner, we'd love to fund them and be a partner with them or help be a stakeholder to grow it up. And, for us, like our mantra is we think like owners and developers because we are. So every check, every change order, every payout, our team is looking at it, whether it's for us or a client, like it's their own. And that team is very important because it's, we're in our business, it's like you can never be passive. So like from coming from baseball and stuff, what is it you're looking for in, true key employees or people that are coming into the business, whether it's for Waltz or others, like what advice would you give them coming from baseball or team?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for us, you know, we feel like we're a little bit unique, just because of the amount of revenue that we do on an annual basis compared to the amount of employees that we have. Um, we really look for team first people, right? People that can basically leave an ego at the door and come in, and using a baseball analogy, we look for a lot of utility players, right? People that are comfortable wearing different hats, not just wanting to basically have this hierarchy or say, hey, listen, I need to know, if I start as a project engineer, what do I need to do to accomplish to be a project manager one, and then to a project manager two, so on and so forth. What we convey to a lot of, especially young employees, is we say, hey, listen, we're going to give you an opportunity that we feel you might not get for the next 5 to 10 years if you were to go to a larger company. And what we mean by that is you're going to be exposed to so many different things within our company and within this industry, that ultimately we're not just going to put you into a construction trailer and say, hey, listen, just worry about RFIs and meeting minutes and that sort of stuff. We're going to bring you into budget review meetings. We're going to bring you into schedule meetings. We're going to bring you into owner meetings. So that way you start to learn how to handle clients, and really what buttons they want pushed and what buttons they don't want pushed. And so for us, team first, willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done successfully. We're big on culture, just like you guys are, and so we have a list of core values, and really they're centered around, very similar to you guys, what's going to allow the project to be successful. And we have three pillars of success, right? And it's, a, was the project profitable? And that profitability could be, did we make a penny or did we make $1 million, right? Whatever it is, but was the project profitable? Would our subcontractors and trade partners work with us again, right? Because we're only as good as our trade partners. And number three, if our client has another project coming up, are we their first call? And if we don't check all three of those boxes, we view the project a failure, right? No matter how much money we make, but if we don't get a repeat client, we didn't do our job successfully. And so really, just from us, when we bring new employees in and people looking in this industry to get into the industry or looking to kind of change, if they can step back and they can go, if those three things can be met, you're a great fit for us. And honestly, I truly believe, I think you're going to be a great fit for any construction company in the industry, because those really are the three big things that I believe the construction industry looks at as a whole.
And are you trying to recruit out of, CM programs, guys coming and gals coming up from the field, or, open-minded, like you came out of communication, like it's where are you typically finding, or how would you coach somebody that's graduating high school or coming out of college? And my answer might be a little different. I'll give you my answer as well. I'm curious. So, because it's owners reps are typically, we're a little bit more of an anomaly than GCs. But go, I hear.
Sure. Yeah. I'm a big believer in hands-on experience, right? Getting into the trenches as soon as humanly possible, and learning your craft that way. So to answer your question, we recruit from all different aspects, right? We have 5 interns this summer from ASU, right, that are going through the School of Construction, and they do a phenomenal job over at ASU. The one difficult thing, and this is part of the reason why the internship is so important and so valuable, is because students can only learn so much in a classroom, right? You see something on a computer and you read something in a textbook, it just doesn't feel the same, and you don't grasp it as much as being on site. So we do some recruiting there. We utilize some local recruiting firms just to kind of see more for seasoned veterans in the construction industry. Like if we're looking for a senior project manager, we might bring on 1 or 2 recruiting firms just to see kind of what the pool is looking like out there. But honestly, Colby, our best employees that have the most tenure come from just internal references, right? And they don't have to be 10, 15, 20-year construction vets, right? We have a phenomenal project manager that was actually the recruiting coordinator and assistant coach at Grand Canyon University. He was in education for 15 years, but we just knew that he had the skills and the willingness to learn. And we brought him over. We convinced him. We didn't throw him to the wolves, right? We started him slow. We got him introduced to the construction industry. All of a sudden, he was then able to associate a lot of the things and a lot of the strengths that he had in a previous career to what we're asking him to do in the construction industry. And within 6 months, he kind of just skyrocketed into a senior project manager. And so we have 7 or 8 employees that have that similar type story, to where either Matt or myself or one of our other business partners knew them in another life, right? Or we crossed paths. Two of our employees were actually clients of ours. We actually worked for them and had to answer to them. They wanted to go a different path. They reached out to us and we said, hey, listen, we think you'd be a great superintendent, or if you want to come on board and be a project manager. And they've now been with us for 6 years. So we find the most value in that. Now, it's very difficult as we continue to grow to have 10 or 15 of those type candidates sitting in the bullpen, right? Those are 1 or 2 employee type year people. So we do have to utilize some other recruiting tactics to get in there. But our most valued ones are internal references, hands down.
Well, and I'll give you credit. I mean, I'll never forget the first job I walked that was a Waltz project, not one of ours. And, we've done half a dozen plus projects together. Your team has a great pride of ownership. And what I truly mean by that I've been able to work with your senior PMs, your schedulers, your supers, all the way down to a safety coordinator. And I remember the first job I ever walked was with a young gentleman that had only been with you about a year and a half. He was a safety coordinator, and we were walking through. And honest, it was the cleanest job site I have ever seen. And it wasn't just there was no trash, but it was the fact that this was a guy that was a project engineer that had taken over wanting to take care of your team for safety, had gone through and changed colors of layout on, your string lines so that there was a differential so you could see it better. And he had actually gone out on his own and bought coolers and was stocking it to make sure that all the employees, because it was August in Phoenix, had water and were hydrated. And he was doing it on his own dime because he wanted to make sure his team was safe. And, for me, I'm like, anytime you can find that, and it's not just grit, it's self-initiative. It's that, and I'll say 65 people is a small but big team, but every single one of the Waltz folks I've met have that. And for me as a CEO, it's something that we strive for in that culture, because that's not easy to find. And it's, that's a very unique person. And, I always mention what's different, like as an owner's rep, we're not just GCs. We have to truly see the field as a cross between a quarterback and an offensive coordinator, if I'm going to use the football analogy, or if you're looking at it, almost like a general manager of a baseball team, where we have to understand what is what's the entitlement process, what's the due diligence process, what's the business plan, so we help the architects stay to financial metrics. For you as a GC, as we go through and we get you in early and we're going through all the wrong pricing, should we have hollow doors or solid doors, depending on what it is, and to the end of bank compliance. So it's like our team has to be able to go from 10,000 feet to 2,000 feet on 6 or 8 different topics. And that's very hard to train for, because our perfect people have gone deep, or have been a framer or been a foreman, but then, are able to also present in front of city council. So it's a very unique thing that for us to find or cross train, because people tend to want to be a forward planner or want to be, more of a construction person or more of an acquisitions person. So we struggle with it, every day. And, but to me, it starts with, where's that grit? Where's that taking of ownership? And if you have that, you can kind of cross train the rest, because the person that's going to take that initiative to buy a cooler is going to be the same person that's going to take the initiative to go back to school, or to grab a book out of my library or the bookshelf behind me, and to call me or text me and ask me the questions. Hey, what would you do? How have you done it? Where are you going? How do I they're always striving to be better. And that's, to me, our business. It's like, there is no such thing as an easy day. And if you're not improving every day, there's something wrong with the business.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, and the grid analogy is spot on, right? And thank you for the kind words about our team. We're only as good as the people that we have within our organization, and for me, it starts with Matt Waltz, right? Matt Waltz shows up. I mean, he's very successful in some other endeavors outside of just the construction industry, but he still shows up every single day here in the office, and he's in the know, right? He's ingrained in me that when we get a project, right, that's coming down and we're pushing for substantial completion, you bet 100% that my butt's going to be out there with a hard hat on, pushing a broom around in jeans and some Timberlands, right? And it's just the way it's that grit attribute, right? And Colby, every member of your team that I've worked with has that attribute, right? And it's why we get along, I think, so well, and why the projects have been successful. And ultimately, well as anybody, the candidates and employees nowadays, I think, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's not as ingrained, but it's a trait that can be taught, right? They just need to have that opportunity, and it needs to be presented to them, right? And so for a lot of our employees, they come from some type of a athletic sports background, and ultimately there was always some pain in the ass coach that was yelling at them and telling them to get on the line and run, and you couldn't quit, you couldn't back down. And to me, there's a little bit of that in the construction industry, right? There's going to be difficult days, there's going to be tough times. You got to wake up, you got to show up, and you got to give your best effort. And when you do, you look back and you go, hey, that was a pretty darn good time that we had, and something to be proudful of. And so I couldn't agree more with you.
So I'll ask you a little, well, I'll consider a leading question. We forecasted that we think materials, well, in general, we've seen the materials market come down dramatically in the last 18 months. Pretty much peaking kind of right around, call it a year ago in May, so a little over a year ago. And that's, lumber's down from 1600 back down to the 400 to rebar's down, cold form, cold roll steel, PVC. Our belief is that, we think we'll bottom out, probably September, October on materials. And I wish it would go down further, but, we're thinking it's going to be kind of tied back in 25 and 26 to close to 1 to 2% direct true inflationary numbers again on materials. You guys agreeing with that, or what? Are you seeing anything different in the market?
No, we're right in line with what you're seeing, right? And I think for the first time, probably in the last 18 to 24 months, I feel like we can kind of take a deep breath, right? Because for a long time there, it was we would present a conceptual ROM, right, off of literally a napkin sketch, and we would go in for, let's say, a multifamily building, right? That's wood frame, stick and stucco, and we'd go in and we'd say, hey, listen, this should be right around 36, $38 a square foot. And then within 60 days, by the time we were getting into 50% DD documents, it was $48 a square foot. And we're going, how is this even possible, right? So for us, we feel like the volatility of the materials market has kind of leveled out. Unfortunately, I don't foresee it getting back to where we were pre-COVID, right? I think a little bit. Manufacturers, suppliers, they're seeing that there is still such a need for what they offer that the construction industry hasn't taken a substantial hit out here. And so we're trending in the right direction. We're trending downward, but I do think that we're getting pretty close to just seeing the new norm. I think this is just going to be kind of where we are and what our basis needs to be from the development and the construction side. When we're putting performance together and we're putting budgets together, we got to go back to kind of where we are now, which will probably, when we look at it, will be anywhere between 20 to 25% higher than where we were pre-COVID, which is a tough pill to swallow for some developers, because they're going, this doesn't make sense. And it's going, I know it's the world that we live in. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but here's the honest to God truth.
So we, for some of our clients that are more well-heeled or sophisticated, we've had them doing two-party checks and actually writing, advancing funds direct to supply houses to get net 2% off, 5%, 7% off net savings. Or how are you cutting, or how are you seeing some folks cut that 25% by advancing funds or doing other things with, but still leaving, the quantity liability on the GC. Or as an example, I never want to buy a stick frame. I never want to buy lumber, because if I start buying the lumber, then I might have a piecework framer that's not going to care, and they'll just start throwing out anything that's not straight, or they're not, or their cuts are never as efficient as when they're responsible for actually using the lumber they're supplying.
Sure. Yeah. No. Couldn't agree more. You know what we've tried to do is we've tried to take out our crystal ball, right? Which changes every week, and ultimately we work in a collaborative manner with our clients. So some of the unique things that we've done as the GC is we've done a couple of things. We've gone out and we've implemented a little bit of a reverse auction type buyout process, to where we go in and we say, hey, listen, the project budget will allow for, let's say, doors, frames, hardware, right? The budget will allow for $500,000, right? If you can come in at $400,000, the project is yours, but we want to start procurement immediately to hold your pricing. And what we've done is we've actually gone out with some certain clients that kind of have this proactive approach like you're talking about. And we've leased industrial rental space, right? That allows us, just for the project, to procure hollow metal frames, hollow metal doors, all the hardware. We store it in a climatized, licensed, insured, bonded warehouse. So that way, if the lenders come out, they can go check it. We're the ones that hold the keys. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to lock in pricing immediately, right? So not only are we getting that 1 to 3% savings like you're talking about, but we don't have to worry about any of the volatility that could be coming up in the next 90 to 120 days. And so really what we do is we put a huge emphasis on procurement upfront. As soon as we're under contract, or even before, if we can get a notice to proceed or an LOI that basically guarantees us the project, we're immediately looking at procuring items. And the only way that we can do that, whether it's a design build or a CMAR or a select bid, whatever the delivery method is, we have to work in a collaborative manner with the design team and the client, right? And that's the way that we've had the most success. I say a lot in presentations that our ultimate goal is, I hope somebody walks in off the street and they don't know who's on our side, who's on the design side, and who's on the owner side, because everybody's working in such a collaborative manner. And when that happens, now all of a sudden you start to see the benefits to early procurement, like you're talking about, going direct. And a big thing for us is just transparency. We'll talk to an electrician and we'll say, hey, give us your lighting manufacturer. Are you opposed to us talking to them directly? 99% of the electrical contractors go, hold on a second, you're going to alleviate the procurement items off of my plate and allow you to take that on, and I just still have to install it, and you're going to pay me to do that? We go, yeah, we want to do that. Here's the number. I'll make a personal introduction. You guys go handle that. So that's what we've really seen, just really creating a collaborative team environment, being transparent, and just thinking proactively instead of reactively.
I had a funny one on that. We had a BTR, build to rent project down in the Southeast, and this was about a year ago when electrical panels were still going up. And a lot of what the people on the outside don't realize is not a surprise, but as certain commodities became problems, there became a gray market. So you had certain people buying, switchgear or buying electrical panels and stockpiling them. Well, when the market slowed, they went through and slowed down. So we had one of our guys actually go through. This was 198 homes, and they found all the electrical panels on Craigslist and eBay, and that people had bought it. We got them not only in like 2 weeks of delivery time, but shaved 30% off of retail, because people thought they were going to make money on reselling electrical panels. So it's you got to just find that small little angle.
It's unbelievable. We actually had a project we explored. It was the one that we were first introduced to and worked together on in Mesa. Same thing. Switchgear was whatever 60 weeks out, right? We didn't have that in the project stage. We actually went to Square D down in Mexico, and we asked them if they could manufacture us all of our electrical switchgear, and they did it. And ultimately, what happened is the manufacturer here in the States caught wind of it, and all of a sudden we got bumped up to the front of the line, right? So there is a little competitiveness. So our client ultimately had two of the exact same switchgear, which ultimately what they did is they took the one from Mexico, they got it approved by the governing authority or the local municipality, and they designed it into their next project, right? But it was one of those things to where we wanted to pit a couple of competitors against one another and see if the competitive juices could start flowing, which it did, which was beneficial. So I get a kick out of going on Craigslist and eBay and doing all that sort of stuff. It's a great idea.
Are you seeing any of the backlog of your subs start to shorten up? Or I mean, because again, back in historically it was always 60% labor, 40% material. Last couple of years we've kind of had that swap, and now with material coming down, we're getting back in that 50 to 55% labor. And it's, to me, I don't have any crystal ball. I have nothing yet to be able to forecast that labor rates or even subcontractor margins are going to start to come in. I mean, we're starting to hear it. Architects are 20 to 40% of normal capacity, so we're starting to see the soft costs really open up. We're starting to see a lot of designers bid, do front end work for free to win work because they have excess capacity. But are you seeing that at all yet on the subs?
Not yet, especially out here in the Arizona market. We got a couple of microchip facilities. It's Intel or TSMC that they're taking up a substantial amount of the labor force, and so we're still seeing that everybody is well. Here's what I would say is I'm not seeing the labor force and the sub market get too hungry to where we're seeing drastic downticks in cost per square foot. What I am seeing is people are staying steady across the board, which means to me there's enough work to go around. We're also not seeing inflated numbers to where it's kind of that take it or leave it, which we were seeing a little while ago, to where you would have, if we got 3 or 4 sub numbers, you would have 2 or 3 that were within reason, right? And then you would have 2 that were so astronomically high that you're just going, why did you even waste your time providing this? And it was just because they were so busy that they basically said, take it or leave it. Here's my number. We're starting to see all 5 of those numbers now come back within, in my opinion, the realm of reality, which is, I think, a good sign, to where ultimately I would say here, what I'm projecting is, I think after the election, right, there's a lot of stuff that's weighing on this election here in November. I would say end of Q4 into Q1, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of partners sharpen their pencil, right, and just say, hey, listen, we want to go get this, and we want to go work with the right partners, right? That's what we're seeing too, is we're seeing a lot of our trusted trade partners going, hey, listen, if you can guarantee me this project after we've received, right? And we call them in and we do a review, and they say, hey, listen, I have 2 to 5% wiggle room in this. Tell me where I need to be. I want to work with you guys because you treat us with respect. You pay us on time. Your projects are well run. We want to work with you as opposed to maybe some of your competitors. I think that's going to continue to happen moving into Q4 and ultimately into 2025.
We talked earlier about different contract forms, GMAX, cost plus lump sum. In a normalized market, one of the things that you and I always do with subs is we say, okay, here's your number, etc. But put provisions in the subcontractor's contract to cap their profit margin, so they're not able to really bump it up or make egregious profits, outside the bid environment. And in a normal market, that's kind of 10 to 15%. Or are you seeing that? I mean, we were getting mass pushback for a couple of years where people would say, just strike it. They didn't even want to cap, or they were trying to bump it to 20% because they thought they could go get it elsewhere. Are you seeing those numbers start to come in yet?
Yeah, it's starting to get more back into that 10 to 15%. More firms are willing to negotiate now, right? To where we're not seeing red lines in contracts. They're kind of just coming to the table and saying, hey, listen, I think what it is not only from the general contracting side, but from the trade partner subcontractor side, is they want to create this pipeline that gives them surety going into 25, 26, 27. And if they have to take 5 or 10% off the top, meaning if you want to lock me in at 5, 10, 15% profit, I'm okay with that as long as I can put this into my pipeline and I can account for this moving forward. So that's what I think is happening, where 6, 12, 18 months ago, there was so much work to go around. They were kind of going, my pipeline's already here. I don't know what's in my pipeline, right? But there's so much work to go around that I'm going to be awarded projects. Now they're going, I want to be more strategic. I want to work with the right firms. So we are seeing that come back more down into a comfortable position for us Fortunately, if somebody redlined it in the past, we would just say, "Hey, listen, it's kind of a take it or leave it deal. We're not going to budge on this, right? So it's 10 or 15%. Let's make a gentleman's agreement, right? You're in business to make profit. We understand that, but you're not going to go buy a yacht on this one project off of our dime." Is ultimately where it is.
Well, it's so funny. That's a great analogy with it. And the hardest thing for you guys now, or subs too, is verifying developers and making sure that projects are funded or financed. So this is where it gets dangerous for great subs, because the opportunity cost can become hard if you spend 6 or 8 months on a project that you think's locked and loaded, and you cut all your fees. And that's where a lot of our clients or developers don't understand how they can burn their reputation, is doing that just now. And if you start exercising a lot of people and don't have your ducks in a row and don't execute, well, that's don't call a Waltz or a subcontractor again, because it costs a lot of money for you guys to put bids together in teams. I mean, to do a $20 million, a multifamily project, as an example, or a $30 million multifamily project, before you're typically under contract, my estimate is you guys are burning $70,000 to $125,000 of man hours, really putting that all together. And a lot of people on the outside don't understand what it really takes to do it.
Yeah, you're spot on. And one thing that we try and convey to clients too is we only get so many bites at the apple, right? And so what we try and do, especially early on, whether it's conceptual napkin sketch to schematic design, DDs, whatever it is, we're going to try and keep this in-house as much as humanly possible, right? Let us utilize our historical data. Let us utilize like projects that we're currently building in a similar type market, because if we start sending this out to the local market too soon, and we expect this to get updated and pricing to happen 3 or 4 times, the market's going to get stale. And then they're going to go, this project isn't real. That's when you start to see pricing starting to get inflated. And so we're very strategic up front to go, we feel we have 2, maybe 3 bites at the apple to actually price this and keep people hungry on these opportunities. So we got to do it the right way. And so you're exactly right. Yeah, before we get under contract, and especially a GMP, we're at least we're into the 6-figure number, which we're happy to do, right? As long as we're getting the feeling of we have a true partner and that the value is being reciprocated on the other side of the table, if that makes sense.
Oh, completely. Well, Jay, thank you so much for your time today. Anything else you want to add to anybody else that's out there? And feel free, any quick plug for Waltz. I mean, happy to introduce any of our listeners to you at any given time for any work in kind of Western United States and multifamily hospitality or education. But anything you want to leave them with?
No, appreciate it, Colby. Really appreciate our friendship and our partnership over the past 5-6 years. It's been phenomenal. Love working with like-minded people. Can't say enough good things about the CREDE group. And if you get an opportunity, I'd love to have you sit down and love to listen to maybe you and Matt Waltz spend a half hour, 45 minutes talking together. I think you guys would have a great conversation. So if there's an opportunity for that, please let me know. I think you guys would have a great time. But thank you so much for this, and had a blast, and look forward to catching up with you here soon. I think the days of summer that's coming up here.
3 days of summer. Can't wait to see it. It's got Night Rider coming out as our band, and we'll be raising money for War Heroes on the Water, which is near and dear to all of our hearts. So anything we can do to support our veterans, we're 100% behind.
Yeah, likewise. We wouldn't miss it. We already got our hotels booked and flights booked, so we'll be there. Count us in.
Thanks, Jay. All right, everybody. Thank you, and continue to listen in, like, and share on all your major outlets. And Jay, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, Colby.
Bye-bye.